We are live. Welcome to this group chat for grown ass women. Y'all, it is World Mental Health Day, and don't nobody need some damn therapy than a mama or somebody with a mama, which is all of us here. Okay. So whether you are a mom or you have a mom, you are qualified to be a part of this conversation. And I am guaranteeing that you are going to walk away with something. Now, I was about to say that we're not necessarily here as experts, but we do have some experts in the building, and we're going to make sure we put some respect on their name. But this is meant to be a judgment-free, safe space to have some of these conversations that I enjoy having on my platform because they are not the popular conversations, but they are tough conversations that need to be had. And so, really quick, I would love for each of you to introduce yourself, and then I will introduce more of our conversation. So I'm going to start. We'll go Kendall, Jennifer, and then Dr. Shante.
Well, I am Kendall Williams with Mom's True Tea. I am the host of Mom's True Tea podcast, where I speak the unfiltered, authentic, and unapologetic truth about the motherhood.
Hey, Jennifer.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jennifer Arnice of Black Mother Wound, and I work with Black women who have challenging and painful relationships with their mother. And I'm also the mother of a soon to be 17-year-old son.
Welcome. Hey, Dr. Shante.
Hi there, I'm Dr. Shante Holly, and I'm the host of Whole and Complete podcast, and I'm also the host of the First Daughter Summit, which is a retreat for the first girl, the eldest girl in the family, or the first girl that gets called in the family to come to the rescue and doesn't always have somebody to come to her rescue. So it's a tough gig, and we'll be hosting a retreat for that coming up in a few months.
That is, listen, first of all, one thing that y'all know already is that if you enjoy this conversation, you got 4 different podcasts here that you can go to tap in and continue these conversations. So definitely make note of everybody's name and social media handles are up on the screen so you can make sure that you stay connected. These conversations that we have been having around motherhood as well as the mother wound are unpopular conversations. I honestly thought that I was special, y'all. I started this whole having these conversations on my podcast because I thought I was going to help myself. I was selfishly thinking that I was the one out here with these mommy issues. And baby, little did I know that these conversations would literally be like the most watched, most played, most comments, most everything episodes. I mean, Kendall, your episode is from like 2 months ago, and I'm still getting hundreds of like every single day people are flooding my inbox off of this one clip where you talked about your PTSD from motherhood. Jennifer, I know on your episode when you talked about, the mommy dearest reference and kind of recognizing some challenges and some differences with your relationship with your mother as young as like 7 or 8 years old, that was relatable to a lot of people. I did not realize, I thought me and you were unique. I didn't know that literally, I did a poll and there's literally close to 50% of women who said that they never heard their mother say, I love you in a lifetime. And these are grown ass women. Those are crazy statistics. And then Dr. Shante, from your episode, I think one of the quotes that kind of went crazy on your episode was talking about the fact that if your mother, and this isn't your mother, but I think it was one of your clients who said that if my mother wasn't my mother, I wouldn't know you. You couldn't even come close to me. Like we could not be friends if you were not in this position in my life. And because of all of these very taboo kind of conversations that we had, I wanted us to come together for World Mental Health Day and kind of share some stories, but also really share some solutions. Because one of the things that I gathered after reading more than 5,000 comments on this topic is that women feel alone. And we feel alone because when we finally do get the courage to open our mouths and share our truth, we are usually beat down to the ground and we are told, well, you shouldn't open your legs. You shouldn't have had them babies. You made the decision. You laid down. Well, your mom, that's your mama and you need to just respect it. Our problems are minimized. We are often felt like we're left in a worse position than we were before we even opened up our mouth, because now we got your shame put on us when we already had our own shame put on us. And so that stops here. Okay, this is that Ayanla clip when she like, not on my watch, because we're not doing that over here. Okay, we're not doing that over here. We are not going to talk about the fact that, mental health, we scream mental health all day long, but then when someone presents a problem, we tell them shut up and deal with it. This is your bed, you need to lie in it. And so for anybody who has ever felt like you were alone or alienated, or you think you're the only one dealing with something, then hopefully tonight you will get a sense of connection and feel as though someone here represents you and you can relate to one of our stories. So I want to open up. I have a question for each of you, and then I kind of just want to open up the conversation for everyone. But Dr. Shante, I want to start with you since you are our resident therapist tapping in. And I know you do some therapeutic work, Jennifer, as well. But I want to start with you, Dr. Shante, since you do focus, you run the gamut. You don't only specialize in, mothering and mother issues. When it comes to self-care, I feel like self-care is like a trendy kind of thing to throw around and talk about. But when I'm really honest, and y'all, this is a safe space, so I'm gonna be honest too. People don't be having no time for self-care. Self-care is at the bottom of the list a lot of times. It's like, I will get to that if I check all this other stuff off. I will rest when I do 25,000 things that's on my to-do list and add on a child. And that 25,000 things becomes 2.5 million things. So as a therapist and an expert that sees women all day long, what is your advice or recommendation for self-care, and how important is it in relation to the impact and outcomes of your children?
So this is really interesting. I'll start with the latter part of that question. I wish I could find the study, and if I find it while someone else is talking, I'll just throw it to you in the chat for you to push out to your audience. But they've done studies that the health and well-being of a child is contingent largely upon the happiness of the mother, and the well-being of the mother. And when your mother is in survival mode, um, a lot can come from that. And one of the reasons why women end up being, or mothers end up being in survival mode, is because they don't practice self-care. And one of the reasons why they don't practice self-care is because that has not been our indoctrination, that we have not been socialized to take care of ourselves. We've been socialized to take care of other people. We have not been socialized with the expectation that you are worthy of care, that you are precious, and that you need to be a good steward over this, gift of self that you have. And a lot of our value has been tied directly to our labor. So it's been tied to what can you do rather than who you are. And so when I talk about self-care, I say, you can get your car washed and you can get it detailed and you can get the tires shiny. But if you never get the oil changed, you never put gas in it, or you never charge it up, for those of you electric vehicle people, you're going to have some problems. You're going to have bigger problems. I mean, it will be cute. It'll be sparkly, and it will be dysfunctional and sitting in your driveway. And you be like, now I got a whole host of other problems because now I can't get my kids to where I need to be. Now I can't even get to work. I can't even go and buy groceries because I didn't do this fundamental aspect of car care. And so it's like, we can't care more about our cars than we do about ourselves. We can't, like we are the engine that drives the house. And so I think part of this is, every part of healing is not just about learning what to do, but it's also about unlearning, about interrogating, like, where did I get that from? Why do I think that? Why do I feel guilty about, and it's like, where is that coming from? And then having the courage, big C courage, to wholesale reject a lot of the hand-me-down trauma and the hand-me-down toxicity that a lot of us have inherited from generations that came before us.
You know what that made me think about, that analogy of the car, when I was trying to, and I'm still not really on point with my meditation. But when I was trying to wrap my mind around the need to meditate every day, I thought of the analogy of like charging your phone. Like your phone is literally going to die if you don't charge it. Now, thankfully, our bodies don't just die. If we don't do self-care, we're not just gonna, we can't shut down, but it's not gonna be instant like your phone just dies. So me having to wrap my mind around making time for this daily meditation, I had to say, okay, I can't take better care of my phone than I take of myself. I can't be making sure that every single day or all throughout the day, I'm making sure this phone has what it needs, but then I'm going to make an excuse at the end of the day for why I don't have time to do something for myself. So I love that analogy because women, and especially Black women, we are intelligent as hell. But baby, when it comes to using our logic for like real life and personal life stuff, we can use logic all day professionally. But when it comes to personal stuff, sometimes that logic just goes out the window and we don't see the need to prioritize ourselves as we prioritize career or prioritize projects or prioritize our professional goals. So that's why we have all those statistics where we're the highest number and the fast and growing and all of these things. But then the other side, our personal development, I don't think is key. Not even personal development, because we'll hire a coach and take a class. But I think that's not even really personal. Our real, true, like internal selves, we don't put as much effort and time and care into.
Well, I think if something cataclysmic happens and like the signal goes out, the last thing I want your listeners to hear me say is Black does crack. It does. Black cracks. Okay. Like I know we like to keep it cute, very mindful, very demure. But the reason why I have clients, the reason why I have a wait list, the reason why, registrations are filling up is because Black cracks, baby. It may not look because we're really good at we'll make it look. But deep down on something on the inside, it's not working. Black is cracking and it's been cracking for a very long time. And so I think as soon as we start to divorce ourselves from that trope that, I got to hold up the bloodstained banner because, we ain't weak. It's not about weakness. It's about humanness. Okay. Like you are allowed the full complement of human experience. And that includes, okay, things like care. That includes not being able to do it all. That includes saying no to people who value, again, your labor, but not your person.
And I believe that it all comes down to childhood, what we were taught to prioritize. And for those of us who do have this mother wound, which Dr. Shantae, I know this is something we talked about as well. Kendall, I don't know about your relationship with your mama. You got to fill me in, but us three, we in the same boat over here.
Shaky.
A little shaky. Okay, a little shaky. I think that when you weren't taught that you were worthy of care from the person who was supposed to care for you, like your one person, when your person didn't show you that you were worthy, I don't care how many times you tell me I'm worthy. If my mama did not show me, like my mother doesn't think that I'm worthy, why in the world? And most of the time we go out and operate not like subconsciously thinking of these things. We're not out saying, my mama didn't love me, so you can't love me. But a lot of times deep down inside, because we were not shown that we were worthy or valuable, we are not operating in the world like we're worthy and valuable. One of the things that you said on our episode, Jennifer, that just people are still commenting on is that success can be a trauma response. I would love for you to unpack that and also expound on how your mother wound can show up as a grown-ass woman in different areas of your life that you might be unaware of.
I think if we go back to the beginning, like we talk about how we were taught as little girls, and if you were raised with an emotionally immature parent or parents, as adults, we live our lives based off of our values, whether they're your conscious values or your unconscious values. And if you have not evolved in your healing journey, those values were established when you were very young, and they were based on how you could find safety and how you could get your needs met, right? And if you couldn't get your needs met or be safe, these certain parts of you have no value. And as you get older, you negotiate away the things that don't have value, right? So time alone, you were, I don't need time alone. What's really valuable is showing up for people. What's really valuable is not disappointing anyone. What's really valuable is accreditation. What's really valuable is um, my mother being able to go to the church function or go around with her friends and say, my daughter did this and my daughter did that, and having something to talk to her about, because you can't talk to her about being sad, or you can't talk to her about, you're confused, or maybe you're doing something that's more than what she's doing. You can't talk to her about that, but you might be able to talk to her about the things that make her feel valuable, because she's dealing with the same um, lack of worthiness, and she passes that down to us. And so what happens is we're negotiating away our worthiness. We're negotiating away rest, integrity, being able to ask people for help. These are all tenets and things that help make up a healthy mental health. Making sure we eat a good breakfast, making sure we sleep good, drinking water. Like I always talk to my clients about, if a baby is well fed, clean, and has used the bathroom, you have solved the majority of their problems. After that, you can kind of figure things out. We're not even doing those basic things, those simple, those root chakra things for ourselves, right? And so we become, like Dr. Shantae said, this very sparkly version of ourselves, right? With success, external success. And the only way to unpack it is it's just empty, right? And I know some people, they jumped in the comments, everything ain't got to be trauma. Everything don't have to be, you can be successful without it being a trauma response. And that is true. But you have to look at why you're doing something, right? And I think the difficult part is when we've had a certain programming from birth, to us, it becomes a fact. Well, I don't have anybody I can depend on. I don't have anybody I can call. I am the first person that everybody else calls. I don't have anybody I can lean on. If I'm in trouble, I'm by myself. It has been the experience, even though it's not a fact. And so it can be triggering for someone to tell you there's another option, especially if you have reached out to the person who's supposed to care for you, keep you safe, and that person has kind of shushed you away. They've diminished you. They've humiliated you. They have not done what they said they were going to do. It's like, well, if my mama ain't going to do it, ain't nobody going to do it, right? And so we have to have something. It's like, why am I here? Right? Like, I do believe it becomes almost like, and this is gender neutral, right? It becomes like an existential crisis. Why am I here? Everybody, it comes, and what we want is love and connection. What we want is to be seen, like really seen. And if we don't get that, we then have to come up with another meaning for life. And as someone at one point who did not have a meaning for life, when there's nothing, you consider the most atrocious options, right? So it's almost like being on life support. Your success becomes a form of life support, because if you don't have that, you have nothing. And you really then have to sit in all of these unprocessed emotions. You have to sit in the grief. You have to sit in the shame. You have to sit in the humiliation, the loneliness. And we are not actively given tools on how to process that. It's the same way who somebody drinks too much. Some people can drink and it's not a problem. Other people drink a little bit and they falling off of chairs. And we have to, develop a level of self-awareness to know like which lane we fit in.
You know what else I had not considered is the other side of the mother wound, where the mother is obsessive over the daughter because she wants to show her off. So that turns into you living for your mother's celebration. And being a mother, Dr. Shante, is it 99.9% of the time that people come in your office and they talking about their mama? Because I just do not want my children in their therapist's office talking about me. It's going to happen regardless. Okay. All right. Well, Kendall, one of the things that you want to say something?
Out clean. Nobody gets out clean.
Well, we're gonna circle back to that because I think I'm becoming obsessive with trying to keep my kids out of therapy over me. And somebody told me if I obsess over this, I'm gonna miss out on something else because I'm obsessing over this. So that's a me thing. I'm working on it.
Therapy is not a bad thing. That's like trying to raise your children so they never have to go get a physical.
No, I want them to go. I don't want them to talk about me.
What you're a part of their life, though.
I don't want them. I don't want to be the reason they
right. But in that way, you are centering yourself versus saying, I want to give my kids the tools and the freedom that if there is an issue they have with me, that they feel the confidence and the security to be able to discuss it and resolve it.
And let me tell you why else you're not going to get out clean, Koereyelle, because I've said so many times, just because you were raised by the same parent doesn't mean you were raised by the same person. So me and my sister are 10 years apart. I can well assure you, we were raised by two different people. Same mama.
Same.
Different experience.
Same.
And so the person that you were with your oldest son might be something different with your second son. And it's because their needs are different. Cedric the entertainer likes to joke. You'd be like, that first one, you'd be like, okay, this is manageable. We can do this. They'd be like, that second will be a shepherd for the devil. And now you're showing up differently because they're showing up differently. But yeah, just because you were raised by the same parent doesn't mean you were raised by the same person. And we're not even going to get into, how parents play favorites and all that who shot John.
That's going to be the next mental health.
So that's a whole other conversation. So to Jennifer's point, just let them process their experience so that they don't have no attitude at Thanksgiving. That's all.
That part. Okay, so this is a perfect segue for you, Kendall, because when you mentioned your regrets with motherhood, that is not a conversation that people have. That is not a conversation that people are even comfortable hearing. And the first thing that people say again is, well, these your kids, you picked them, you decide, okay, we know that they're mine. I had let's get past all of that, how we got
here. We're past that. My kids are adults. Yeah.
And here we are. Right. So I want to talk to you about your, what is your, I guess, looking back, because your children are tell their ages.
They're 29 and 33.
Okay, so of the three of us, you are the furthest off of the prison sentence. You the furthest out of your sentence.
Yeah.
Except what I've learned is that you don't ever get out of prison. You don't ever get out though. That's what I've learned. You ain't even on probation because you don't get out of you don't get out of jail. The kids just get older.
That's true.
As a mother of grown ass boys, because you got two boys. What would you say if you could look back, like hindsight being 2020, knowing that you did not have the most enjoyable experience for someone on the front end of their mothering experience? What would your advice be? Like, what would you have done different, or what do you think you could have done that would have changed your experience that someone else might benefit from?
I probably could have asked for more help. I probably could have. Because I was a teenage mom, and again, my sons are 29 and 33. So I speak from a place of having adult children and that have been through all the phases already. And I probably could have asked for more help, but similar to what Jennifer mentioned earlier, I never felt like I had support. So I never felt like I had someone I could go to. So when I became a teenage mom at 17 and the father wasn't really present, he was moving around the cabin and I had to shift my life, like I told you before, and get focused on motherhood. I never asked for help. I just was like, you know what? This is my kid. Nobody's going to save me. So I have to be a part of my own rescue. So I definitely would have changed that aspect. Even if I wouldn't have received that help, I still would have raised that flag to say, hell, I need some damn help. But I never did that because I felt like I couldn't really rely on anyone to come and help me. So it was me, my kid, got married, had another kid, got divorced. It was like, hey, this is me. This is all on me. I'm not going to chase a man to be a father. I'm not going to chase anybody. And I just didn't ask for that support or that help from anyone, whether it have been family members or whomever, because I didn't feel secure enough to think that I would actually receive that help if I asked for it.
The village is definitely not villaging as I thought that it would. I mean, I thought they were going to appear, you know, the village people were going to show up at my door, and no one came. And
No.
not only did no one come, I feel like no one called. I feel
Mhm.
like after that baby shower, you know, after all the
That's it.
announcements and you send out the name and how much they weigh, it's like, that was cute. Okay, that was cute.
Yeah.
But now you are kind of forgotten. And all of this to me goes into postpartum. Now, postpartum, I know that's like postpartum, it's a spectrum. It can be so many things, but I am of the belief, and Dr. Shante, wink at me if I'm wrong and I'll retract. But I am of the belief that even though it's a spectrum, we all experience some change during postpartum. That all of us experienced something that was different. I definitely felt like I was mourning my old life. Like that old me is gone, and now I got to figure out this new life. And in the midst of the figuring outness, it can be depressing when you don't know what the new you looks like. You don't know what this new person needs. You're in this new job you've never done before, and then there's no village. So for those of you, I know, Kendall, you said you didn't have a village. Dr. Shante, I think you might have had a village, but I still want everybody to answer this. Where do you find the village? For women who are watching this and they're like, I don't have a village. I don't have a family that lives nearby, because, you know, millennials especially, we didn't move back home. Like, we moved all around the globe. So we don't have that locked in, you know, community that when we would go to grandmama's house every weekend. We don't have that anymore. So for women out there that are like, this all sounds great, I love this conversation, but I need a village, for real, what would be your advice?
So I'm gonna throw this out to the introverts of the world. That would be me. Like, people see the Dr. Shantae-ness. I'm like, yeah, but Shantae Chanel is like, I don't people. um, and so one of the things that, so my family was supportive, and you know, even that can be a rub, because sometimes we didn't have great experiences with our parents, and then we see them grandparenting. Like,
Who are you?
Who the hell are you? Who
Who
are
are
you?
you?
wait, what's going on? What? You know, but the difference between the experience that a lot of us got versus them and their grandparents' is they're not in survival mode anymore. It's not they don't have those responsibilities anymore. You know, they can do the fun stuff. And you know, um I when my daughter went off to college, I said, you know, I had a moment of grief, because I said, I feel like I spent so much time being mom the verb that I didn't get enough time to be mom the noun. So mom the verb, where you got to be, when you got to be there, how much does it cost, who picking you up, who dropping you off, you know, like all of the things,
Service.
all the service,
The
right?
labor. Yeah.
As opposed to me and my daughter, we going to, you know, spa day, and you know, we're gonna do movie night, and all of those things that you see on social media. You be like, how, Sway? Like, you know,
Right.
your house must look like junk, because you know, it's and so when you're being mom the verb and you are operating in survival mode, something that I had to learn how to do as an introvert is I had to allow, capital A, I had to allow other people into the circle. And what that turned out to be, because my child was so if I'm the introvert, my child is very much the extrovert. So Jordan's mom and Jordan, and so I'm like, I don't know Jordan's mom, and now I have to have a conversation with Jordan's mom, you know. And so, but because I allowed that to happen, I was able to expand my village, because me and Jordan's mom became tag team. Okay, you picking up, I'm dropping off. We were able to help each other. You know, like, your village is not always going to be
Family.
your tribe of origin, right? You know, sometimes it's about people that you allow, okay, obviously that you vetted, but that you allow to come in and say, okay, we're gonna help each other through this mom thing. And I have a friend right now who is struggling through that, because she is very resistant to opening that door, because she knows that it's not just about allowing her children to have friends, but that she has to be present and involved and socially engaged, and that's just not her thing. But as a result, it really limits her, and she complains all the time about the struggle she has because of the way that she's not allowing her village to be expanded beyond immediate family.
Dr. Shante, they added me to the group chat at my son's school, and I ain't said hello. I ain't introduced myself. Every time I'm like mute. Baby, please don't invite me. Please don't invite me. I'm crazy. Okay, what about you, Jennifer? I'm curious. How did you find your village?
I think it's been a process, and it still is. I think an important thing in the beginning was I wanted my family of origin to be my village. For like the first 10 years, I tried to force this situation, like we're going to be close, we're going to be this. And then I realized, oh, y'all don't really fuck with me like that. Okay, what do I do? And for me, because at one point, me and my son didn't even have a place to stay. And that was the first time I realized, oh, you really need to ask for help. I was asking for help like, hey, what you got going on? Do you think you can? Versus, and I really needed it versus, I don't have anywhere to sleep tonight. That is humbling, right? So I think when you don't have a village and you're a mother, it can cause a lot of shame. I think that's the first thing that happens. There's so much shame with admitting that you need help, that you don't have a spouse, a mother, a aunt, all these people. It's like, well, damn, what's wrong with you? So you don't even really want to say anything, because it's like, what do I even contribute to this social conversation when people start to ask questions and contribute? And it's like, well, I don't have no car, I can Uber over. So, so the shame can get the best of you, right? And in that situation, and people fight this. They want what should be. And I always say, don't shit all over yourself, right? I ask strangers, right? Sometimes you have to go into the community. You have to go to charities, to nonprofits, to things like that, to really be like, hey, I need some help. What is here? And for me, it took that, and for them not to see me as lesser than, to then start to kind of open myself up to people in general, right? And I think that is still a process for me. We just moved from Atlanta, to South Carolina, and my son I think he's about to join wrestling. And one of the wrestling moms came out and she was so excited to meet me and meet him. And I was like, she wants to envelop me. And not only is it good for me to allow myself to be enveloped, I need to model that behavior for my son. I need to model the behavior of letting yourself be enveloped without judgment, right? So it's like, it's levels to it, right? And I think a lot of my time when he was young, I didn't have a strong support system. So I had a very small, I always worked near his school, so I could always pick him up, always work jobs that paid less, because you couldn't expect too much from me, because I'd have to leave at 5. So I had to work a job that wasn't really needed. So there were a lot of sacrifices I made because I didn't know how to build that village. And when I think about, it's like, it's like, oh, if my mother would have asked for help, our lives would have been very different when I look back on it. Like, not even to do everything, but if she would have asked for a little bit of help, her life would have been so different. So you don't have to ask for all the help, but my thing is just let a little bit more in, and it is really a practice, because I still get scared. I still get semi-nauseous. It's like, oh, you want to know me? Because I also have a feeling like, I don't think anybody likes me, right? So I always think, oh, if you get to know me, you won't like me. And that
You think
is,
you're bothering because
I
you
think
felt
I'm
like you were bothering
bothering.
your mama. This is
So it
such a
brings up, yeah. So
help us, Dr.
so,
Shante. Therapute us real quick.
Okay,
Come on
let
in
me
the
just
room.
hop in here real quick.
please.
I'm gonna say this word, and you sit with it as long as you need to sit with it. Patriarchy,
Absolutely.
patriarchy. Here's what I mean by that. Let's think about a church. All of us have probably taken a lap through the black church at least once. Okay. Here's the thing. The pastor of the church, who is usually a man, right? I want you to imagine if the pastor, as soon as you pulled into the parking lot, was in the parking lot waving you to your spot, directing the traffic to the spot. And then once he got you to the spot, he ran to the door so, he could grab the programs and be an usher and shake your hand when you get to the door. And then, he done showed you to your seat and he was like, oh, it's been nice talking to you, but I got to go up here and I got to start the praise and worship. And so he do 15 minutes of praise and worship. Okay. And now the praise and worship is going on. By the time it's time for him to preach, which is basically like his essential function, one of the essential functions of pastoring. By the time it's time for him to do the essential work, he is burnt, spent, spread thin. And I have yet to go to a church, at least a black church, where there are not women, married, single, and otherwise, throwing themselves. Do you need toast, tea, coffee, peppermints? There's a crumb in the corner of your mouth. Like, can I serve? And we don't, nobody bats an eyelash because it's like, okay, let's
We're
pause for
taught
station
that's the concept of
identification.
Christianity.
Let's pause for station identification. Why
All
do
of
we
this.
have this blanket, unquestioned notion that the man or the person in leadership or the one providing essential functions to the flock needs support and service? And as a mother, especially a single mother that is providing essential functions to the flock of her home, oh, well, she made her bed hard, she better lay in it. What?
Yeah, and that's crazy. And I think my issue is why isn't the absent parent ever held responsible?
Why is a single mother and not absent father? And I also want to throw something out here, and this is definitely a discussion for another day. There is such a thing as a married single mother, because I
Oh,
know
absolutely.
baby, listen.
That's a whole
Now, I
nother
am not
topic.
one.
Just
Look,
because you got a
I
ring
jump
on
real
your
quick. So
finger,
let me not be shady. I am not one, but that is not something that is talked about.
I
just
talk
because you got
about
a
it.
ring on your finger
That does
does
not
not
mean.
mean, okay, that
Mhm.
you have an active and engaged partner, okay, that you are co-parenting, because some people get duped into as soon as this ring gets on the finger, oh good, you can be the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, you can raise the
Mhm.
kids, you can do all the things, and as long as I bring home a check, then
Mhm.
you got it, friend. So let's not make the assumption that just because you're married, you're also going to be supported, because what you need to be a parent versus what you need to stay together, those are two totally different conversations.
Very true.
Listen,
Yeah, I could talk on that all day. I,
eh, listen,
I could
whether
talk on
you
that all day.
are single, married, are a mama or got a mama, we can all relate
Mhm.
to this conversation because as you mentioned, it all comes down to us. It all falls in our lap, but then we've been raised to believe if we can't carry it, something is wrong with us. If you can't carry it without complaint, without crying, without telling anybody that it's real heavy, if
Mhm.
you can't do that, then you're doing it wrong. So when we show up thinking that we can be the strong woman and fix everything, and then life comes at us fast and it's like, no, sis, you actually do need some help, then we think that something is wrong, which brings us back around to this shame and this guilt.
Mhm.
Because to admit that the motherly instinct didn't just click on the moment this baby came out of my body, to admit that I don't know what the hell I'm doing over here, to admit that I don't know, where I'm going to sleep tonight, to admit that my mama don't fool with me, to admit that I'm the black sheep of the family, there's shame tied to all of that. So for me to even ask for help, there's shame in the ask, right? I'm already, what we do to ourselves,
Mhm.
what we do to ourselves is outrageous. Like, we treat ourselves way worse than we'll ever treat anybody else. Like well, maybe not you, Dr. Shantae, because you probably got a healed inner voice, but most of us with some unhealed inner voices, okay, we are beating ourselves up.
Yeah.
And especially if that mother voice in the back of your head was a bully voice, then all you got going on in your head is you bullying you. And so we become grown-ass women and we have these kids, and society says you should just have it all figured out, and none of us have it figured out. But none of us are talking about the fact that we don't have it figured out. So when you don't have it figured out, you think something's wrong with you. And I am here to tell you that none of us have it figured out. And we are all literally every single day just trying to survive every day, regardless of how much it looks like we have it together. But I want to ask you, Dr. Shantae, for a real healthy way to deal with the shame. Because whether it's shame of you were with a man and now you ended up being a single, like, there's so much shame on the internet. There's so many, you did it wrong and you got it wrong and it's your fault. And I don't want to hear about how bad it is because you put yourself in that situation. How do you manage that when you know you've made a bad choice? You know you didn't get the result you wanted, or maybe you made a good choice and you still didn't get the result that you wanted. How do you manage that without letting it tear you up? Because we all know what stress does inside of the body. Stress, shame, guilt, what that does inside. So how do we get it out?
One of the ways to get it out is to really unpack where it came from. And people always chuckle, but I'm telling y'all, we still have plantation issues, right? So that whole trope about the strong Black woman, that comes from somewhere. That comes from the plantation. Like Sojourner Truth, ain't I a woman? Wasn't nobody throwing their coats over the puddles for us to walk across, and that whole notion of white women tears, white women fragility, like, oh my God, I can't, that sort of thing. Black women, servants from looking at that like, do you know what I would get if I cried? Okay, I would get the whip. I would get the lash. So my tears have no currency here. I got to suck it up, soldier on, and keep it pushing. Fast forward, what do we have today? Black girl magic, and it's like, yes, and because we are creative, the vibe, the whole thing. Like there is something so tremendously special about Black women and Black culture, and how we continue to push civilizations forward, not just Black, all civilizations forward. And I said, I wish there was a way to affirm us while also making room for the fact that we are still trying to figure it out. Like, Black women do not allow themselves enough space for vulnerability, because they're like, oh, I can't put myself out there. I can't be down bad. That asking for help is like, I should be able to handle it. And all the shame that is it. Silence cultivates shame. So that's the first thing you should know about shame, is that silence is like secret keeping. It's like, oh, I can't tell anybody, and the longer you stay silent, it just breeds. Because if you've noticed, a lot of viral posts, and I'm not talking about the TikTok dances and, teaching me how to Dougie, but a lot of the ones that tend to go viral are people who have said, okay, is it just me? Because here's the experience I'm having. And folks be like, I'm glad you said something, because now that you've said it, now you freed other people up, So first of all, it's just being able to disperse the notion that this is just you. It's not just you. Number two, and again, this might be the introvert in me, but the thing is that I always challenge clients when they're dealing with these types of I got to be strong type issues. I'm like, okay, to what end? Like, what is your pot of gold at the end of the rainbow? Did you get your badge yet? Was there somebody out there handing out badges? Like, look how strong you were, and because I mean, I ain't got my badge, and I've been at this for a minute. I'm like, there's no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And then also too, we live in Western culture, right? So I'm a college professor. I see a lot of Asian students. I see a lot of Middle Eastern students. They move together. Okay, like it's like when I move, you move, just like that. Before we came here, we used to be like that. We used to be tribal culture like that. But we got over here and now it's every man for himself. I got mine, you better get yours, and that sort of thing. And so it's like, so we've been so indoctrinated from just our fundamental roots of who we are as people that it seems blasphemy to reach out and ask and admit that we're struggling. And I would say that sometimes you need to replant yourself and come away from places that discourage your struggle. And I'll be the first to say sometimes that is the church. Okay. That whole, well, you need to pray and walk away. Now I believe in prayer, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, um, getting away from those places that don't allow you to be vulnerable, that don't allow you to be real. Okay, because and Koereyelle, I'm gonna have the money conversation with you. As you know, there are lots of white moms who are making buku, 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 buku off their struggles. Like, oh my gosh, it's so hard to potty train. It's so hard to get Timmy in the bed. It's so hard to, and the views are up, the money is up, okay, the weight is up. And so it's like, you can do that too. And then also, I mean, I'm still waiting for my black card in the mail, maybe along with my letter from Hogwarts. But who are we doing this for? You have to ask yourself, who are you doing this for? Like, who's paying your bills? Who is like, who are we doing this for? This performance of having it all together. And so I think the biggest part of uprooting that shame is, one, to allow ourselves to be vulnerable, but you also have to be in safe spaces to do that. And so part of that is coming away from people, places, and things that perpetuate that narrative of shame, that perpetuate that narrative of, you should have it together. And the last thing I'll say, and this is also cultural for us, I posted a thread the other day. I said, I take issue with people who feel like you're supposed to suffer just because they suffered. Well, when I was your age, well, back in my day, well, when I was, but you could help me though. But and we need to learn how to strike the balance between allowing people grace, okay, and support when mistakes are made, okay, and not compounding their suffering, with the fact that sometimes you do have to live with the very real consequences of your actions. One of the things, and this is the last thing I'll say, I know y'all feel like I'm beating up on the church, but I'm not. But these are just real
Go
things,
for
right?
it. It's safe
So,
space.
do you know how many times I have said, because this was my situation. Like, me and my child's father had no business getting married ever in life. But when I was an unwed mother and I was in the church, they was looking like, well, you need to make that right. So making it right was, to save face, y'all, and this just add water family. It's like, and that was supposed to eradicate the shame. That's not even in the Bible. That's just not even in the Bible. Okay. But people are like, okay, well, I don't want people looking at me, and I don't want to wear the scarlet letter, and I don't want to have the shame. And so, you get into these relationships, trying to quote unquote make it right, try to make a family. And it's like, no, what you need to parent and what you need to be in a lasting, healthy, sustainable, loving marriage are apples and oranges. Okay. But when you're in institutions and in cultural settings that reinforce that narrative, you need to take a minute and say, wait a minute, this might
Is
not be
this in
right for
alignment?
me. Is
Is
in
this in
alignment?
alignment?
Exactly.
So many of us are just repeating and regurgitating what has been done, what we saw, what our mama did that we don't even agree with. Sometimes we're repeating stuff that we ain't like it when she did it with us. And now we turn around doing it to ourselves or doing it to our children. And it literally, it's unconscious, is it subconscious, unconscious? I don't be knowing I'm doing it. And some will come out of my mouth and I'm like, oh, that was my mama. So it's so important that we don't just fix ourselves for our kids, but we have to truly, we are our own project. And sometimes it takes our kids to motivate us to actually get it together. But a healed mother can create a happy home, a happy, healthy, and healed home. Okay. That is it. Now, we did a lot of soapboxing. I think this was a very helpful and constructive conversation. And based on the chat, I know y'all are like, oh my God, this is me too. And these are the conversations that I'm all about. The, oh my God, that's me too. Oh my God, I've never heard somebody say that they don't fool with their mama. Oh my God, I've never heard somebody say, like those taboo conversations that make you feel like you are alone in this world. That is what we are here for. What I would love to have each of y'all share, though, as we wrap up, is a solution. Because what I don't like to do is spend an hour talking about the problem and then sending people away and saying good luck. So what I want you to think about, though, is practical solutions. So Jennifer, one of the things that you mentioned is, when you were going through your challenges, there were maybe a nonprofit that you could reach out to or a resource. Because one of the things that, people kept going in on Kendall's clip is me saying where are the resources for moms? And everybody's like, there's resources. Mama got resources. Well, where are they? Share them then. Where are they? Right. So resources that you have come across or used that you didn't know about that could help a mom. And then I'll share a couple as well. So Kendall, we'll start with you. And also share where people can find you. I mean, I know that you're tagged here, but drop your podcast name as well.
Yeah, my podcast again is Mom's True Tea, as you can see in the chat. And I am on all socials and YouTube under that same handle. There's so much that I want to say, but as far as a solution, I would go back to seek support where you can find it. We did say there are no resources. And to me, I feel like the resources that were maybe presented, like therapy or whatever, that may be great, but I still don't feel like it's the be all or the end all for what support we need. We need community, and we need to be able to be in communities with other moms that feel like I do, because two things can be true. I may regret my experiences with motherhood, but that doesn't mean that I don't love my children. I may feel like I have symptoms of PTSD, and I know people think that's only affiliated with war. And it's not, because being a mother is like being in war. And I think people disregard that a lot of times, because I've dealt with anxiety, I've dealt with panic attacks. A police officer just came to my house today looking for my younger son, and I have no idea why. So how does not that re-trigger anxiety or anxiousness or all the things that my nervous system has been trying to get past over the last year or so, right? So, and then I would also say, number one, be honest. Be completely honest about how you feel, because a lot of us are suffering in silence, as we kind of echoed throughout this. We don't want to talk about it because we don't want to be judged. I guess I'm just in a place, and always have been in a place, of honesty as it relates to my experience as a mother. And I think other women need to be completely honest no matter what, because you may be helping someone else out by speaking your truth. Also, too, Dr. Shantae, I know we were talking about real quick, and sorry, Koereyelle. I know Koereyelle mentioned, I don't want my kids to go to therapy and talk about me. I don't care. That's number one. But we need to have another conversation about the parents that are going to therapy talking about their kids. Because my therapy sessions, that's what they consisted of. Me talking about the experiences and the trauma that have been caused by my adult children. So I think we need to have a conversation around that.
That's gonna be the next group chat. That'll be the next group chat. That's something that people don't talk about, though, because I'm over here talking about my mama, but God forbid somebody be talking about me. Okay, Jennifer.
I think that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. I think first and foremost, we have to come to the honesty with ourselves. I cannot do this by myself. I need help, right? Because I do believe in alignment. I do believe when you ask, that it is given. And that might be a phone call, a commercial, something you see in passing. I don't know. I don't know where I remember my mother telling somebody, if you are ever in trouble, like you are really, really in trouble, call the Catholic Church. You know, my mother grew up was Pentecostal. We went to AME Zion. I don't know where that came from. But that one phone call one day when I was sleeping with my 7-year-old on a friend's couch, I called the Catholic Church one morning, and they couldn't help me, but they put me in contact with someone else. I called them. They put me on a wait list. They said it's going to be months before we could help you. Call these people. These were all based on in my county is who the church put me in contact with. The lady, when she called me, I answered the phone. She said, I wasn't supposed to call you for a few more months. She said, but I go down the list every day and nobody answered the phone. You're the first person today to answer the phone. And I just go down the list every day until I get someone. Next thing you know, we were in an apartment. I had enough dish detergent, soap, toothpaste to last me for a year, among other things, right? They helped me transition into I was getting apartments, but I didn't know what I was doing. So I was getting evicted, but they were like, no, this is how you do it. They set me up with somebody to help me do a budget. I didn't know anything about that, right? So it was really, they mothered me is what they did. They mothered me, right? And during this process, you also have to give yourself permission to sit with your feelings, and you provide a safe emotional space for yourself for the things that come up. Because when you do something so drastically different outside of your conditioned identity, it pulls up a lot. It's like when you shake up a glass that has sand in it. And so you have to then begin to do the work to become aware of your feelings. You have to do that, because otherwise you'll just become another robot. Oh, I got it done. I accomplished it. I got the help. I'm going to go back. But you haven't put the fire out. So the most critical piece is to begin to sit with your feelings, accept what you are feeling, and create a safe space where you are, because that's how you're going to begin to give yourself permission to dispel that shame, because you have to share to get rid of shame. And the more you do it, the more experience you get. You say, oh, I'm not really jumping off a cliff each time. This is more like a curb. But you have to do it. You have to build the confidence of it. And don't expect this to happen overnight, because you're not trying to keep up with somebody else who you think got it going on. Give yourself the grace of all the decades you need to get through it. Right? Not like, when will I have it done? Because don't nobody have it done. The person you think got it done, don't. So.
And if you ever need real help, call the Catholic Church. We ain't gonna forget that. Look, Mama came through with that one right there, though. Hello.
She was very resourceful. Now, I think she learned that later in life, because she never called the Catholic Church.
Well, she had that tidbit for you. She ain't.
Yeah, and that's what I appreciate, everything she gave me and everything she didn't give me. So even in that, there was mothering, right?
Yes.
And when you go through this process, you can also then begin to find grace in those ways. Like, oh, I can pull a silver lining from the worst experiences, right? And you can find me at Black Mother Wound everywhere. My podcast is Black Mother Wound. Instagram is Black Mother Wound. My website is jenniferarnice.com.
I love these. The only thing that I would add, I made a short list so I can do this quick. Number one, I think if you are listening to this or watching this and you recognize these cycles that have repeated from generation to generation, there's a book. I'm a professor. It's always going to be a book. It Didn't Start With You. That's the name of the book. It Didn't Start With You by Mark Wolin. And it talks about how trauma gets passed from generation to generation and how to break the cycle. That's one. But number two, if you decide to take that on, please know, cycle breaking is nasty work. Okay, it is, because you're being an outlier. You're going in the opposite direction of all that has come before you, and people are going to feel some type of way about it. But oh baby, you talking about generational wealth. Ooh, a generation that starts with a healed mother, that starts with a healed matriarch. Your kids, baby. Like that's a game changer. That's real generational wealth. So if you take that on, it's gonna be tough, but you will get a massive return on investment. The third thing I would say is you need to recognize what your trauma response is. Parenting taught me that. Fight, flight, fawn, or freeze. Okay, so I'm a flight, about to catch another flight. I'm actually in New York right now. Okay, um, but when you are in the throes of motherhood, that's one of the reasons I decided to only have one child. I said, "Oh, ain't no out." There's no out. Like my tendency when I feel frustrated is I'm like, okay, I need distance. I need to take a break. I need to take a lap. There was no lap. You're the mom, okay? Like, and so having to sit with the exhaustion and the frustration and all of that. And I was in therapy because I did not want to take that out on my child. Sometimes you have interactions with your child and you popping off and you feel bad about it afterwards. You're like, dang, what is it? So I think it's important to recognize what your trauma response is and see if that is showing up in your parenting so that you have some awareness of it and can kind of keep an eye out for it when it pops up. Um, but also too, the last thing I'll say is sometimes you have to do what they call reparent yourself. So I received a lot of toxic messaging, and I'll do something real light, real benign. I was in one of these conservative Southern Baptist church. We couldn't celebrate Halloween. That was the devil's holiday. You going to hell, right? Like for trick or treat, you going to hell. Child, I got floating candles hanging from my ceiling right now. I'm watching Charlie Brown. It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. And the thing is, that fills me with. I love Charlie Brown, and it's my inner child. Like, man, I know women who have like, I'm painting my room pink because when I was coming up, I didn't have my own room, and we was moving from place to place, and it was instability. So I'm gonna paint my room pink. I'm like, girl, paint your room pink. Put sprinkles on the. Do what you want to do. But don't be afraid to don't think like, dang, my childhood just that was it. You don't get a do-over. I wouldn't necessarily say that. Reparenting yourself is fun because you have resources now. You have agency now. You have choice now. You got money now. And so don't be afraid to recreate those things and to start new things. Like some of people wish they had those holiday traditions where the family was sitting around the tree or they went to this tree lighting and things like that. Okay, that didn't happen for you then, but it can happen for you now. Okay. And so you can't change the narrative, but you can change what that's doing neurologically and psychologically and change the association with things like the holidays and what have you. So that is also something practically that you can do. It's not a lost cause. You have every day you have an opportunity to hear me, create a new experience with something else. Okay. You can create a new experience with money. You can create a new experience with food. You can create a new experience with childhood and motherhood. And like Kim said, and Jennifer has said, it does take a village. And so if it's not in your immediate family, take one for the team, hop into those mom groups. And it just takes one mom. You just need one mom, okay, to just tag team and partner with, and it can make all the difference in the world.
I love it. So I will respond in a group chat and I'll circle back and tell you about it. My one suggestion is the YMCA, y'all. I'm gonna keep it real simple because what I did not realize is that with a YMCA membership, you get 2 free hours of childcare every single day. And guess what mama can be doing? Sitting her ass in the sauna, taking a lap in the pool, going for a walk around the track, sitting outside in your car. You can do whatever you want for 2 hours for free. It's included in your membership. So baby, your workout plan, like whatever you need to do, they have little tables. You can bring your laptop and make it your workspace for the day. That has been a game changer for me, especially during the summer when, if you don't want to pay for summer camps and all of those things. So if you don't have a village, sometimes you got to pay for the village. Sometimes you are paying for the resources to replace this fictitious village that we all thought was going to show up on our doorstep. I hope that this has been a helpful conversation. I know that it has been, because sometimes just, and even for us, I don't know about y'all, but just getting it out, getting it out of my body, saying it out loud, and then to have somebody nod in agreement. Sometimes you just need somebody to say, girl, you ain't the only one. You ain't the only one that got some bad kids. You ain't the only one who kids be out here cutting up, embarrassing you. You ain't the only, like, you are not the only one. People just don't want you to know their kids are bad. But I will tell you, we are behaviorally challenged over here at the moment. Okay. It is what it is. I'm working on it. I don't have it figured out yet, though, y'all. I don't. And I am not afraid to admit it. And so I feel like we can get ahead so much quicker if we're just honest about our experiences, and if we are willing to help make somebody else's experiences a little bit easier. If you can learn from my mistakes so you don't have to make it, please do. So I thank y'all for being here. Truly, truly do. This is going to have to be a regular thing because these conversations need to be had. Starting in January, though, y'all, I am going to be awarding a Mom of the Month. We're going to be giving away a staycation every single month to a lucky mom. Like, I need this. This came from me being like, girl, I need a staycation. So this is something that we're working on through our nonprofit, but I just know the need for mental health resources for moms. And sometimes it's just an uninterrupted night of sleep, okay, can do wonders for your mental. So stay tuned for that. If you have not joined the free Well Kept Woman community on Facebook, make sure you do it. Tap in with everybody that you see here over on Instagram. If you just go to my last post, everybody is tagged, so you can follow everyone. They're also tagged in my stories. And if you are not subscribed to Girl Stop Playing, make sure you do. You can go back and tap into all of the amazing conversations that we've had with these amazing ladies, as well as close to 200 episodes for you to get caught up on. So thank you so much for tapping in, tuning in. Hit the subscribe button and share this with a friend. I'll catch y'all on, I don't know, the next group chat. I recently launched the Well Kept Woman community for women just like you who are interested in investing in wellness, mental health, and your overall well-being. If that's you, tap the link below to join me inside the Well Kept community. I'll see you there.